Hi, hello, welcome to Tech Expo Humber. Once again, we're delighted to be joined by Christina Colmer McHugh. Christina is a co-founder and director of Moodbeam. Moodbeam is a wearable device that helps us map happiness across people and teams, driving positive change and improved well-being. So Christina, it's delighted to see you here today.
Oh, good morning. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
No, good morning. So tell our audience why Moodbeam, why wearable device, why we're looking at employees' well-being, and where did it all start?
Okay, so Moodbeam actually originated 6 years ago coming as an idea in my head. Really, I wanted to know how somebody close to me was feeling when they weren't with me. And so I came up with this mad notion of, well, if it doesn't exist in the world, perhaps it should. And we have evolved from a very sort of personal care, consumer focused product to a work happiness measurement tool, if you like. And that's really evolved through conversations we've had with people saying, gosh, this would be really useful for my people and teams. And then obviously a year ago or 18 months ago, all of our worlds changed, and people who normally go about their daily work in the usual way were suddenly displaced, and remote working came to the fore. But simply managers didn't know if their people were okay, and how could they find out? And equally for employees, having such a turbulent time, they needed to feel connected to the workplace, but on their own terms. So Moodbeam has really evolved to answer that need through the relationships that we've built up over the 5.5 years.
Brilliant. So tell us, what is the growing relationship between humans and technology?
I think we've relied on technology to always solve a problem or provide a new experience. And I think what's different about Moodbeam to maybe any other sort of, mood logging technology or, sentiment technology is that it's really it's in the hands of the users. So it's very much an employee-led piece of tech. And without their buy-in and use, it's no use whatsoever. And I think there's been a huge sort of gaping misunderstanding between sort of how technology can enhance workforces and organizational health, but there's been a lot of mistrust built up recently with spyware, bossware, and things that perhaps weren't intended for that use originally as technology, whereas our technology did come from, I guess, a good place. It came from a very personal space, and nobody knows better than you how something makes you feel during the day, and especially during the working day. So we're hoping that Moodbeam provides a connection between the human and technology, because we're not trying to replace conversation, we're trying to enhance it and prompt one that perhaps wouldn't have occurred before.
Yeah. And do you think now there's more than ever people are really focusing on the well-being of their employees, either working within an office environment or in a home environment? Is it really on people's agendas now to start actually looking at people's well-being and moods?
Yeah, I think if it hasn't been before now, it's probably been a bit of a tick box exercise, being quite honest, where people are too busy trying to grow their business and keep their people and bring in all of these sort of, a suite of offerings to if something goes wrong. But, now that obviously we have, taken it from the well-being perspective and the mental health perspective, which is where we started, to be fair, it's now very much how does anything make you feel while you're at work, and being able to sort of bring it up onto the agenda actually enhances a lot of people's roles at work, because if you're a manager and you're trying to keep on track with the job at hand, whether it's a project, whether it's performance, productivity, but somebody's phoning in sick, or somebody's not back at work, or they're at the desk but they're sort of not thinking about the job at hand, then I'm not communicating that, if you like. How on earth is a manager supposed to know? So I think it is higher up on the agenda. I think depending on which industry you're working within, it's whether it's being taken seriously or not, and really being understood for the powerful mechanism that it really is, which is that if you can make changes in real time every day, you can solve a lot of the problems that people have during their working day. But equally, it also shines a light on success on those people who perhaps have carried out a certain role, but up until the pandemic, that was always the case. But during the pandemic, they had to work differently, and perhaps they've really excelled at that. And I think it's really important to keep it high up on the agenda. And for the FDs and those people who are trying to find an ROI on why would I invest in a piece of technology that does this for me, it actually will save them a lot of money, but ultimately keep the right people in the company who have made it what it is today.
Yeah, and some of the big companies, especially it's in the city of Hull, where it's quite an industrial, quite predominantly blue collar as well working environment. How are a lot of companies with high volumes of staff welcoming the product and implementing the products operationally into their business, and what kind of results are they seeing from the back of that?
Okay, that's a really good question, because what's happening is that and we sort of made a bit of a, we had a lot of coverage back in January, and brilliant piece, but perhaps quite an inflammatory piece, because how it was landed was let your employer know if you're happy, when in fact the inflection should be let employees have the chance to say if they're happy or not. And I think, not where we are now, we are talking to companies, and the right companies, to be honest, because the culture has to be right, the intent has to be there. And we're speaking to organizations, large and small, who really have been trying to find out what makes their people tick for a very long time. They have, brought in good people, spent a great deal of time recruiting what they thought well, but when it came to the crux of it, perhaps because of the non-communication in the working environment, they've lost those people again within weeks. And obviously, people being unhappy at work, they get all of this. And those are the sort of organizations we want to work with, those who understand why this new metric would be useful to them. And what's happened is by putting it into the hands of the employees, they've been able to sort of, through the dashboard, sort of see in real time who's okay, who's not okay, have a quick view of their top 5%, what's happening with those. And what it allows employees to do is have a voice and have an opinion on, whether it's the microwave's broken for the 5th time running and nobody cares, or actually I'm under a great deal of pressure at home at the minute, or actually the team are under a great deal of pressure because they're trying to catch up and try and deal with the new working ways. Unless you actually have a voice to say, I'm really hitting the blue at the minute, I'm having a real struggle, how is a manager going to know? So the feedback that we've had from those organizations, particularly the larger ones, is that I can't spend my day, and I can't expect my HR team to ring up 500 employees every day and go, how's things going? They'd love to, but in an ideal world, they can't. And what this allows them to do is really see, every day, who's okay, who's not okay. Okay, I'll give them a call. I'll drop them an email. I'll grab them, if they're back in the office again, to say, how's things going? Because what's happened is that they've found out through this really, gentle, discreet way that somebody's maybe, having a dental problem. Let's face it, pain affects your day greatly. Or equally the pressures. And what they've been able to do in each instance is, drop them a line, have a quick catch up and go, okay, well, I didn't realize that. Do you need to have your shift pattern changed? Do we need to look at that as a team? Location wise, that department was doing really well in this part of the country, but that one's not. Is it a cultural thing? Is it what is it that's going on? And being able to have that prompt takes away that vacuum of unknowing what's going wrong or what's going well, and being able to build forward on that. And what they're able to do is sort of, you know, take this Moodbeam report, take it to the board meeting, say, yep, look at this against sales, look at this against productivity, look at this against, you know, sickness and absence. And actually what it's allowing them to do is talk to each other in a whole new way, because what's become blindingly obvious to us is that the perception between what an employer thinks makes their employee happy and what an employee knows will make them happier is so different. And what it's doing is bringing that conversation to the top for them, so they actually feel more informed, and everybody has a chance to do something about it. So it's been really, really interesting experience, actually.
Brilliant. So when a company, quite a high volume user of the Moodbeam product, takes the product on board and implements it into their business, are they then offered additional advice from your companies what they need to be doing ethically with the data that they're receiving to make sure that they're actually closing the full circle, that they've got the data and they know what to do with the data in the right way?
Yeah, well, we spend a great deal of time actually building a relationship up with each of those organizations and individuals, really to understand their culture and their capabilities when it comes to bringing a new piece of technology in-house. We spend a lot of time making sure that they understand the product, that they understand that the product is a data capture product. We're not diagnosing here. This is not a medical, you know, implement. This is something that captures mood every day for those who use it, and allows through the dashboard those to look at that and decide for themselves if they need to take action. We know that there's a lot of brilliant sort of you know, companies that are helping organizations already. So this is really almost, we were told the other day, this is the missing jigsaw piece. It's almost like the prequel to everything they do, that gives them the evidence to know that they need to maybe make changes. So that takes a bit of time. It is a new way of thinking. It is a new piece of technology. But once you sort of say to them, okay, this is what it looks like, this is how your people use it. We know through the trials that perhaps mandating, because you can set up prompts, you know, in the first iteration, you could do that, but perhaps that was overkill. Perhaps what we need is to just have one really good daily reflection score for each individual that uses it at the end of their working day, so that then they can go, okay, how was today actually? Okay, well, it started off bad, but it got better. Or actually, I can't even focus, blue, blue, blue. And then there's a conversation to be had in itself. So it's really explaining to them that this is a mood logging piece of technology that then evidences those moods, so that you can have a conversation and take action. Because without that, everybody's going around in circles, and with the best will in the world, nobody's discovering anything new. So once they realize that, they then speak to their teams internally and go, this would be really useful to know how Bradford is compared to Birmingham. You know, we're able to sort of look at through the insights, who the 5% are, and through the data protection, we have a data protection officer on board who has provided a very solid data protection policy, so the employees know that they're identifiable. It's given them an employee voice, and equally for the managers, it knows that the compliance is there. And we're working towards a benchmark, really an industry standard here, where if you can provide a happiness score for your individuals, you know what makes them happy, and you do more of it. But I think it really does show us which organizations have already been thinking about this, because they will then know that if somebody speaks to them and they have a conversation, they know to direct it to HR or a mental health first aider, or just simply the store managers, you know, who are saying, okay, well, sales are down. Well, why is that? I would like to know why my company's not thriving in that area. And it helps them operationally help their people, which is probably a completely new way of doing it, to be honest.
Absolutely. So how can a company positively use their involvement with Moodbeam for part of their recruitment and retention of staff?
Yeah, that's another one that's really shown where Moodbeam maybe has a place as an emotional legacy within work, because how they can use it is really to be able to sort of demonstrate and show that they're a good employer. You know, we have organizations who are using it sort of in the bid submission stage, you know, right through to, you know, every other stage of gaining new clients. But when it comes to attracting new talent, those in the know that, especially with the younger generation, there is an expectation to have your well-being considered. There is an expectation that this is something that is a metric that needs to be amongst the KPIs, and they're actually getting attracting better talent as a result of that, because they're seen as an attractive company to work for. And equally within the recruitment space, you know, we know that within the first 6 weeks is when most people walk, because they have, you know, been recruited well, they've come into this role, they've been supported well by the recruitment agency, but things don't work out that way. Everybody loses then. The employee doesn't have a job that they like, they leave. The recruitment firm probably has a penalty or a fee loss. And for the company, they've probably spent thousands of pounds trying to get the right person in place and having to start all over again. And I think this is where the missing metric comes in. If you're able to establish that almost at before the print or the psychometric stage, then you've got some really valuable insight on a person and how they're happiest working, which means that maybe they may never go to that role. They may well go to a role that's more suitable for them. And you've got a whole, a very human way of seeing if you've got the right person for the role.
Yeah. So is it something that could be used on a pre-recruit as part of the actual process for companies who are looking to bring in staff?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that's what we're starting to see, is that, you know, for an employee or a prospect who is looking for new employment, has maybe discovered what they're better at, being able to know straight away if that's the sort of company you want to work for would be brilliant. And that's where the happiness score will come in. Eventually, when enough organizations are using it, they'll be able to, like you would on Monster or, you know, Glassdoor, be able to see this happiness score where a company is actually going, do you know what, we're really good at this. We're really good at keeping good people with us. And we can show you that, we can demonstrate that. It's almost like the prequel analogy. You know, we're able to show that we're a good company to work for, and you're the sort of person that would like you to be part of our company. And then you have a completely different conversation. And it's an honest one as well, because you feel that you can be more yourself in this new role. And the biggest frustration, I think, for organizations, especially the larger ones who perhaps are a global organization, and they have been trying to headhunt and get a particular individual for maybe 2 to 3 years, they eventually get their interest. That individual is then able to see, okay, well, you're great with your culture, you're great with diversity and inclusion. You take time to get to know and explain the British way of working, because we've had those sort of conversations where they've had somebody come in that they've been trying to get hold of for 2 or 3 years, and they leave within 10 weeks because they just didn't get British banter. They didn't get the, you know, I'm only pulling your leg scenario. And they actually thought, well, how on earth am I supposed to lead a team of 450 people if I feel foolish? And that's something that's maybe been overlooked before.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find now with Moodbeam and with other products that are on the market, or more awareness of people's well-being now, do you find people are being more authentic in themselves?
Yeah, I definitely think they are, but I definitely think unless you are the first one to go down that road, those conversations will never happen. You know, you and I have spoken about this before, Joe, where if you go, how are things go? Awesome, amazing. Honestly, I couldn't tell you how great they are. Whereas if you actually go, work's doing okay, but the rest of my life is a shambles, you have a lot more without having to sort of, do a whole, this is my life episode. People have an empathetic bone in their body, and some may never have used it for fear of exposing their true self. And I think what's really lovely is that with the organizations we speak to, and maybe it's because they've known Moodbeam for its origins, for, professional mom comes up with idea, establishes fantastic team, and they make it happen. Maybe they get that, but maybe they've never heard of that, and they just see us as a Moodbeam for work solution. But the minute that you say, this is really allowing you and your employees to be your true self every day, get to have that empathetic understanding that maybe it's just like, let her get her head down and crack on, or, let's maybe get a conversation going, have a breakout room, toolbox talk, whatever it is. And the minute that you allow yourself to be vulnerable, others will feel confident in doing it too. Because I think historically, and I've been in media for 15, 20 years before this, when you're in an industry that is historically quite tough, in order to fit in, you develop a persona. And you are afraid of, you're showing your Achilles heel in case it's used in a competitive way against you. And I think hopefully COVID's teaching us that in this new world, that to be authentic and to help each other actually gets you further. You build up that tribe, you build up that understanding. My door's knocking, so can I accept this delivery or not?
It's fine, don't worry, we'll just pause for a second. Okay.
Sorry. Thank you. Cheers. Apologies for that.
It's okay.
Speaking of being authentic and
life happens. How do you address a managing director or decision maker of a big corporation where you could really add value with your products, but who believes that, because it's all that person knows, that who believes that if we are authentic and we actually do come to work saying, I didn't sleep very well, I feel a bit stressed out about this situation, I've got problems at home, or I'm struggling with this piece of work, I don't think I'm equipped or experienced to deliver, and this person believes that that's a weakness in his employees, how do we turn him around into actually recognising that he needs to harness a much better workforce by listening and understanding real life problems?
Yeah, and that is a brilliant question, because, one would argue that straight away they're in the wrong job with the wrong manager. But when you're dealing with a large corporate and they have an FD and they have many, many gatekeepers and many, many reasons why this wouldn't work, when you explain to them that trillions, and we're in the trillions now, of sterling and dollars is lost every year to good people leaving the company, to long-term sickness, to absenteeism, to presenteeism, to time lost, as they would see it, on people who don't really care about the job. For the sake of a couple of pounds here, we're talking in technology terms, for each person who uses it, the amount of money you will save, saving that person, if you like, and seeing the real person, so that if it's just a case of giving Stacey a couple of days on a different project, that they actually get more productivity, higher performance. And, Deloitte recently, the most recent piece of research has backed up probably a decade of research, which is that if you have happy employees, your business is more productive and you thrive, and you grow. So I think it's for those sort of people who aren't quite there yet, who are maybe a little bit fearful of what they don't know, because there will be people who have never had to embrace this culture in their organization. I would say that it's not something to be fearful of, but actually celebrate, because if you are on the cusp of change in your organization and you've always done things a certain way, and I think, to be fair, a lot of organizations have had to and have been forced to work a different way, don't go back to the old ways. Move forward and actually say to your people that you have, look, we need you as much as you need us, and we need to have that understanding. And for the FD who's sitting there tapping the books and going, hang on a minute, how much is this going to cost us? It's a drop in the ocean, quite frankly, in terms of not losing those, thousands of pounds, millions in some cases, that simply make you look like you're running your company not very well. And I think, apologies, I've got a few distractions on this screen. There we go. Sorry about that. I think if you, going back to your original question of, I don't care, just do the job. Those are the companies that sadly won't be here in a decade because they haven't listened. They haven't learned. They thought they were bigger than technology. They thought that they were right. And I think, quite honestly, those are the sort of companies that if they don't become agile and they don't take this on board, they won't thrive. And, I could fire lots of stats at you that say, look, performance and productivity only really comes from the people. And if they're not there, then that's not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being a successful woman as you are in business, and myself surrounded by other successful women in business, I kind of feel we do have to work a little bit harder on it, and we do seem to burden a lot more of the responsibility with childcare, and we could be a little bit later to the career ladder party, and then that affects the gender divide on the salaries, and all. It kind of like escalates like that. And I'm finding that a lot of the females seem to be more open to technology and change and allowing that flexibility in the workforce and listening. It seems to be more female-led, we find, than more male-led. We kind of could find that the males would be more about the finance side of it and is it a weakness? So there seems to be quite a lot of a mental shift that's needed. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I do think that historically has definitely been the case. And I think one thing I will say, thank you, and I greatly admire what you're up to. I think never to be apologetic for that is number one. To show that it's a strength is number two. And actually, number three is really having the understanding and the nuts, quite frankly, to stand up as a man maybe and say, actually, I've become the caregiver. I've become the one who's been homeschooling, because there's a great number of parents deciding to homeschool their kids now. I've actually really enjoyed this experience. I don't want to go back to the office 5 days a week and put on this persona again. And I think the more of those that do that, the better, because women will support you, because we know what that feels like. And I think what worries me slightly is that this gender pay gap, this inequality, for those who still want to go back to the old ways, and there are attempts at that, this is a great way of making sure that we know our place. And I think what I need to say to that is that now's our time. And when I say our time, I don't just mean women predominantly, but I mean those people who understand why this balance is needed, why this equality is needed, and not to tolerate it if ever a conversation occurs like that. But, as recently as yesterday, I saw that Google, if the facts are correct, are now saying that they're potentially going to cut the pay of people who choose to work from home. Now, I'd like to know what the reasons are for that. I didn't get a chance to read that article. I've got it pinned to read today or tomorrow. But that is alarm bells to me, because that is one rule for one and one rule for another. Why would that be? Apart from the fact that I think it's actually illegal in this country. This is a US initiative, so Google UK aren't following on that, I don't think, at the moment. But if that is the case, why is that? Is it because you don't trust your people? Is it because you think that they're, knocking off early to go and have a round of golf? Because if that's the case, you've got big problems there as to why that would be the case. Because what we're taking away from the employee there is choice. And this whole thing is all about choice right now, or your organization won't be there. So I hope they have some very good reasons for doing that. And I'm sure they have, and I look forward to reading that. But as somebody who runs a team myself, you know, when I shared it with the team, you know, and it was like, same job, same wage, it's a no-brainer. And that's a healthy attitude, because imagine bringing that scenario into the workplace, in every workplace. I feel like we would be going back 100 years personally, but I'm keen to hear more on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I've not seen the article. I've seen a couple of things from other companies, what they're looking like, and compulsory vaccinations. I think that's a whole different conversation for different people on a different platform, I think. But there could be some real conversation to be had around there. But from our perspective, we believe in measuring on productivity as well. But separate to the productivity side of the business, we find people are more productive and included as a team. So there's also, how do we balance the isolation and the loneliness? You know, and that's another conversation. Again, there's real loneliness and there's real isolation, with a lot of people trying to juggle home and work at the same time. Because, you know, if you're working from home, you're probably pegging the washing out, you're probably having to pop into a big shop, and there's still things that'll be going on as well. So how do we make sure people don't feel the isolation and the loneliness? Because some people are better in work and better in a team.
I totally agree. And I think, again, to go back to the peg and the washing out analogy, I think it depended on the person. Some people can walk past it and go, not at the minute. Others just have to do it. And that's just intrinsically woven into us, I think. But I think maybe going back to where we're really getting the appreciation, because we give the appreciation, is the fact that we have now created a hybrid tool for that purpose, so that if you're happy for your employees to start using Moodbeam, you can either sort of use it, you know, off your phone, if your work allows you to do that, or on the lanyard, if that's the preferred choice. And the reason we've done that is because you need to have the choice. It needs to be a hybrid solution for a hybrid workforce. And that goes back to finding out what makes people happiest. And if you know that Bob and Barbara are knuckling down at home, more productive than ever, then you let them. Whereas if you know that, you know, Sue and Sean are happier in the office, because that's where they're more productive, they're people, they bounce ideas off each other, the chemistry is there, they prefer it, and they're happier, hence more productive, then they should do that too. And it's really given organizations the opportunity to see who works best. And I think that's so important, because if the thought of going back to the office 5 days a week makes you very unhappy, then you should not be there 5 days a week. Whereas if it fills you with utter joy because you live on your own, and you're talking to the bin men because that's the only person you see, then you should be in the office. And I think it is all about choice, and the technology in our case must reflect that choice, because there's enough barriers to deal with. But yeah, I think if you can have an insight into what makes your people work happiest, then you should let them.
Absolutely. So we'll start kind of coming towards the last one or two questions that we've got for you. So what do you think, from Moodbeam's perspective, what do you think the next 6 months looks like for the workforce?
I think for the next 6 months, it's going to be actually, hopefully, a happier experience, in that we are helping organizations return to whatever it is they're returning to. So whether it's university, we're having conversations with universities to see how we can see how their people are happiest returning to university. Where we have conversations within schools, but I think fundamentally within the workplace, it is the return to work. The kids are back at school, all being well, no more pinging, I'm hopeful of, and you're able to have that September feeling. And I, at 46, still have that September feeling, where I got my new pencil case and my new satchel, and I do it every year when I return to work, as sad as that sounds. I enjoy the autumn, because it then allows you to knuckle down and return to what you do best. So I think the next 6 months will be a case of between September and December, getting back on the horse, feeling supported, feeling safe, feeling happy to do however you're going to work, do your job, and really having those conversations that are going to help your organization get through the dark days of November and December and January, so that come the spring, we have a whole new dynamic in force that lets people work how they're happiest and lets organizations have those conversations. Because if you don't know that somebody's not happy, how on earth are you going to be able to help them?
Yeah, brilliant. And I've got one more to fire at you, if that's okay. So, Moodbeam, what's Moodbeam? What we're going to do next? What you're looking like? The evolving of the product, the evolving of the markets that you tap into. What is it? Let's maybe use the last couple of minutes to talk about why Moodbeam, how fantastic the product is, and how it really, really adds tangible value to productivity.
Yeah, I think where we're at now is that we're just about to launch the next iteration of the product, the hardware. So we have that as a lanyard pod, because the bands were very sort of personal, consumer focused. But the lanyard and the direct entry app are all going to be available from next week, which is really exciting because we're sort of starting afresh with a new dashboard, or super simple dashboard, where you're able to gain that insight. So we're launching everything in unison, as I say, in the next sort of week or so, and that will allow organizations to take on board these exciting new products, this exciting new app entry solution, and this exciting new dashboard. And that will, when they're using one or the other, the data is the same, so that you have this full mirror of your day that allows those conversations to happen. And I think where we're working towards is this happiness score. If you're able to show just how much you care about your people, and it's on your people's terms, and you're able to do that every day in real time, you have this real time appreciation measure that then will take your company forward through those tough days and have those conversations so that changes can be made when they need to be made the most, not 6 months down the line, but when somebody needs it right away.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And just to add, we are welcoming you to Tech Expo, I believe, in November, back at the Burness Arena.
Yes, yeah, it's a fantastic event. We have very happy memories of the first one, and you pulled it off in lockdown for the second. And I think there's a lot of respect for what you guys are doing, which is really listening, because I think none of us will succeed if we don't listen to how people want to meet. And you're doing it in a good way. And yeah, super excited. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Brilliant. There might have been quite a lot of blue tapping if we'd have had our devices on last year when we delivered the online event, because it was sort of our comfort zones, but we were determined to give everybody the platform and go ahead. But yeah, it's all good. But,
we did. We pulled it off. But yeah, no, I think it's a great thing, and the world is waking up to see that we just have to live with this at the moment and live through it. And we're pretty resilient people. We just didn't know it.
Well, that's great. That's a great way to actually end this whole brilliant conversation with you, Christina. We are very resilient, but we just didn't know it. Sometimes it's best not to know what's coming. I think I'd rather have not known. We didn't know, like last March, that we would still be in this sort of situation this far down the line. But yeah, we are resilient. That's a great word.
Yeah, and I think the ones who did know it, because I have friends in the NHS, and they were told quite simply that we will have this time next year, and they are probably the most resilient people we know. So we've got a lot to learn from them as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic welcoming you to our event once again. It's always lovely to speak to you and hear more about the brilliant things that you guys are doing at Moodbeam to make real significant change, to help employees, to help people, to help students. It's all about, helping. How can we help people? And like I said, the data capture as well, so that companies can actually do something with that information and action it. So it's always brilliant to hear from you. We really do look forward to seeing you again in person at the Burness Arena in November. So thank you so much, as always, for taking part.
My pleasure. Yeah, we hope so. We try our best, and yeah, we're learning all the time. So just really grateful for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Have a great day.
And you, Joe. Take care.
Bye. Bye.